Tales from the Whistling Pixie, written as told by Fallon Loreseeker, The Silver Sword of Haverl. The three moved around the camp, reorganizing the mess the fight had left behind. Zavala knelt by the troll's body and cast a quiet spell over it. The creature shrank. He scooped it up and put it into his pouch at his belt. When the other gave him a look, he simply said, "For study, experimentation. As I said, I find trolls fascinating." Fallon and Brahms exchanged a glance. "To each their own," Fallon retorted. Once all was settled, they sat around the fire, stoked bright against the dark. Fallon turned to the wizard. "Why are you traveling the road alone? And so late?" Zavala rubbed a hand over his bald head. "Why alone? Well," he waved a hand over his black robes. "Few would get near one of my ilk, let alone travel with one. As for the why so late, I simply had not found the need to sleep." Brahm looked at him with open curiosity. "Why'd you help me? I thought wizards were evil, especially them that wear black robes." Fallon kicked the big man's foot. "Brahm!" Zavala laughed and poked the fire with a stick. "It's quite all right. As I pointed out a moment ago, few like or trust us. But as for evil, well, that depends entirely on how one sees the world. What one person might call an evil act, another might consider simply the most logical choice." Brahm's eyes narrowed. "What you mean?" The black-robed wizard leaned toward him. "Let us say a horrendous beast is chasing two people toward the city gate. Before they can reach safety, you close the gates, letting the two die in order to save yourself and those inside the city. Some would call that an evil act. Others would call it the most logical choice." Brahm's face scrunched in disdain. "You could have waited, or helped fight it off," he said, making no effort to hide whose side he was on. Zavala leaned forward again. "True. You and the city guards could have fought the beast, but some of them might die in the attempt. You might die. Why risk it? A death is a death." He leaned back. Fallon piped in. "Sacrificing one's life for another is the most noble and heroic things one can do. Songs would be sung and stories told about you." He glanced between the wizard and Brahm with a smile. "I should know. It is my stock in trade." Zavala gave them a devious grin. "Tell me then, if I were on the brink of discovering a cure for the withering death, and I sacrificed myself to save one person, when my cure would have saved thousands, is that noble, heroic, or selfish?" The half-elf and the big man looked at each other, neither quite sure how to respond. It was Fallon who finally spoke. "You could be right, but the what if versus the for certain right now carries weight. You might save thousands, or you might not, and saving that one person might itself lead to the same cure someday. You never know, but you did save one life, and that much is certain." The wizard smiled. "Foolishly risking my life had better have a great reward in the end." "Your actions tonight say different," the bard said with a slight smug tone. Zavala's smile widened. "Not so. I am sharing your fire. I have a specimen for study, and I knew I could defeat the creature, so there was little risk." He poked the fire again. Fallon and Brom laughed. You got a point there, Brom admitted. Fallon let his chuckle settle. And what are your plans for the morning? We are headed for a place called Greygellen, near Carosith, the Everwinds. If you wish, you are welcome to travel with us as far as Crimcairn. Zavala gave them a wide-eyed look. Greygellen? I think I have heard of such a place, though I am unsure exactly where it lies. Carosith I know well. In fact, I was heading that way to continue my study of trolls. He paused with an air of a man about to offer something valuable. And you are in luck, my newfound friends, for I know of a path that will cut your journey by a couple of days. You will not even have to scale the Three Sisters. Fallon looked at him surprised. A path that avoids the Three Sisters. My studies showed me no such thing. He reached into his pack and pulled out his map. Where? There, near the old ruins of Crimcairn. He traced a finger up through the valley and landed on Carosith. Follow that, and you come out well ahead. Fallon studied the line the wizard's finger had drawn. Funny that none of my research turned up that path. How did you come by this knowledge? The wizard settled back into his seat by the fire. My patron gave me the knowledge. Where she obtained it, I cannot say. Suffice it to say, she would not lead me astray. And in this case, you will benefit from that. He poked the fire again. Looking at it now, there could indeed be a path through the Dartmouth Mountains that his research had simply missed. He glanced over at the wizard. Could he trust him? Yes, perhaps. Should he? Oh, that was the question. Zavala had saved their lives, but Fallon knew the reputation of those who wore black robes. He turned the thought over in his mind and then set it aside. Judge a man by his actions, not by the reputation of others. He would follow this black-robed wizard until he was given a reason not to. Very well, Zavala, Fallon said finally, his eyes moving to the wizard. We shall travel together. Seeing as how we're heading in the same direction, we shall follow your lead. You say there's a path that cuts through the Dartmouth Mountains? Zavala nodded. That is correct. Just past the old ruins, it will take us straight through to Carosith, your destination. I myself am heading a little further beyond, but the company up to that point will be greatly appreciated. The half-elf looked between the two men. Perhaps you both should get some rest before we head out. I can keep watch. I already rested. Brom crossed his arms over his chest. Don't be knowing about that. Last time he let you take walks, me got attacked by a water troll. You sure you can handle it? He said with a wise grin. Fallon narrowed his brows. Funny. But I think I can handle it. Besides, I already cleared my bowels, he said with a smirk. Zavala reached into his pack. I, for one, would enjoy a few hours of sleep. My tonic has worn off and I find myself quite tired. But come morning I shall brew more, and our journey shall begin. He unfurled his bedroll and settled in without further ceremony. Fallon watched the two settle in and pulled out his books and rolls of parchment and set to studying by the firelight. He jotted down a few notes about the night's escapades and a few more about the road ahead. After a while he stopped, pen in hand, and looked around the camp. The dying fire, the dark mirror of deep lake beyond the willows, the black-robed wizard and the enormous young man sleeping soundly on either side of him. He smiled to himself. This was turning into quite the adventure. Just what was needed for a wandering bard.